Students should actually should always evaluate whether they are actually heading in the right direction within their careers. There's a saying wherein basically if you help others around you, the world finds a way to help you as well. Product thinking is not about thinking too much about the product. It's actually thinking deeply about the customer experiences. So if you have the empathy around your customer pain points, have the empathy of around their emotions, what do they really feel while they are using or say accomplishing that job, then your product's job is to really help them accomplish that and basically address some of those pain points.
Welcome to Navigating the Next, where we uncover real stories behind product and tech careers in today's global organizations. Today, I'm joined by someone who knows the journey from early contribution to top leadership firsthand. Mr. Akhil Sharma is Global Director and Chief of Product for Global Platform at Entain with a career spanning roles at Razorpay, Ola, Adobe, Expedia, and more. He scaled platforms, coached product teams, and built a reputation for leading with impact. Welcome to the podcast, Akhil. It's really an honor to have you here with us today. Thank you for saying yes, for spending time with us and sharing your valuable insights. Welcome.
Thank you, Prasida. Thank you for calling me in. It's always a pleasure to be able to share the learnings, all of the things that I've gained from my experience over these years.
Yeah. So let's dive into the first question right
Sure.
away. You've held product roles across different companies ranging from startups to global corporates. Looking back, was there any early moment or challenge that shaped the career into what it is today?
Sure, I think I can talk about see the career itself is a journey of sorts wherein you actually learn through experiences, and I think the openness to experiences is probably what shapes you overall, both from a leadership perspective as well as your ability to adapt to new situations. So I think it happened pretty early for me. I think I graduated from IIM Calcutta, and I think my first job was basically a campus placement job. I realized pretty early, I think I wanted to do more than just the consulting at American Express there. And I realized I had to take that plunge to be able to test the waters a little bit and understand what works for me in there. And I was an early entrant into the startup ecosystem with iBibo, which was kind of starting their uh, say internet businesses, OTA operations at that point. They also had a retail e-commerce arm, and that was an early exposure for me into the world of internet and say digital products. And that actually was one of the first critical inflection points in my career. I learned a lot during those stints. From there, moved on to some of the global companies like Adobe and Expedia, and I think that exposure also gave me um, a chance to learn about global best practices. So it was always, as I see my career overall, it was always about, say, shaping my next set of years with respect to what else could I learn and how could I gain my skill set. So within those middle career years, I think it was about gaining the skill set, gaining the exposure, and I think one other inflection point really came to me when I actually switched from Delhi to Bangalore, and that was for the leadership role at Ola. That was primarily for really the senior director of mobility, basically taking care of the entire consumer app, driver app, and the platform for Ola as such. And I think that was a good kind of a challenge. Of course, Ola actually went through its own path in there, but I think that shaped me up in a way that I could actually think about deeper challenges around how do you really scale up a team right from the beginning? How do you really set up processes around, say, a largest kind of a team, which is multi-layered in there? And then again, understand, say, how the global dynamics, how the Indian dynamics, how the leadership dynamics actually shape up in that. I think that resulted into my leadership journey mostly. And since then, I've handled roles at Razorpay and now with Entain in Hyderabad. So I think all of these, say, parts of my journey have taught me a little bit about leadership, about uh, say adapting to new change as such. And I think that's the key for, say, I think thriving and growing within your career.
Yeah, very interesting and honestly inspiring career. Now I'm more curious to listen to what you have to say for our next set of questions.
Sure.
Yeah, so often people think leadership starts with a title.
Hmm.
So, firstly, do you agree with that or not? And then, what are those habits or mindsets that you adopted to establish or kind of get that influence early on, even without formal authority?
Sure, sure. Of course, to your first question around whether there's a title which is required for you to lead, I think I don't agree with that fully. At some point, of course, it helps to get things done, but I think to be able to prove yourself, whether you have the leadership skill set, I think you really need to really go deep and understand, say, how do you get things done? How do you motivate people? How do you get people energized about certain ideas, about certain missions that you would want to, say, basically achieve? So from that angle, if you see, I think I was fortunate enough to have landed into product management after my MBA. I think if product management teaches you one thing in the initial part of your career, it's basically leading without having the formal authority. Basically, having your core skill set very much founded in a data and analytical understanding of what is needed to be done, uh, really understanding, say, what objectively your data is telling you, what is the information that is coming out of, say, users as such. And thereby you actually develop a dispassionate perspective around, say, whatever is the right thing to be done, rather than, say, having your opinions around that. But then, as you grow in your career as well, I think there are elements of influencing your engineering team, elements of influencing, say, upward as well, with, say, your leaders who would probably invest into the ideas that you would want to pitch for. And then, of course, roles across the organization, right from operations to legal to folks who are basically helping you and enabling you in terms of achieving those objectives. In a global setting, that becomes even more apparent, and even more critical, because you actually have to have a strong ability to communicate uh, your thoughts, and much more concisely in that sense as well. Uh, so I think there are a combination of skill sets that actually help you lead with influence and then prove your worth as a leader. So I would probably want to think about, say, having some sort of an empathy with respect to your stakeholders, understanding what they are not telling you, and probably going beyond the explicit things that they are really talking about, and understanding the implicit aspects of it. Having a dispassionate perspective, not getting too much. Typically, people get married to their ideas that they want to
Yes.
pitch. So typically, don't marry yourself to the idea. Keep yourself very, very open in terms of understanding the perspectives around, uh, understand what data is telling you, and then create a view overall. So assimilating certain views across also helps you influence. And then, of course, you should have an ability to use all of that information to build some sort of consensus, some sort of a motivation in the team that you're working with, so that you're able to understand and, say, drive them towards a common goal, and so that they also understand what you're trying to achieve, and as a result, basically go step by step from there and celebrate successes together. I think those are the key things.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
that. So, people often mistake that leadership starts with a formal title.
Hmm.
What are those qualities or mindsets or habits that you have developed early on to start building authority and influence, even without a formal title?
Sure. I think thanks for that question, Prasida. I think it's a pertinent question, especially because I think in today's world, you often have to work with folks who are kind of your parallels. You have to work with folks who don't really always respond to authority as such. And I think I was fortunate enough to have gotten this early, uh, say, learning when I actually got into product management itself. They say as a product manager, you have to lead by influence rather than authority from this day one. And at the same time, you're responsible for getting a lot of things done within the organization. So if you think about that, there are a few things that I've learned earlier within those areas. I think one, of course, is to be able to understand the implicit signals whenever you're talking to folks, your stakeholders, or people who you want to enable to get the work done overall. That may include your engineering team, that may include the operations team, that may include even the finance team or say the leadership team in terms of really pitching your idea and getting them convinced on that. So I'd probably want to say you need to really go and empathize with your stakeholders as much as you empathize with your customers when you think about product management. So that is a key skill to have. Another important aspect is never get married to the idea that you have. Always have a dispassionate perspective. Assimilate opinions across uh, different types of stakeholders. Uh, Assimilate what data is telling you overall and what your consumer is telling you. And then you'd actually most often arrive at the right thing that everyone would be able to agree to. So, ability to really look at different perspectives, assimilating them in your, say, idea building is important. And then I think the third important thing is basically uh, to celebrate successes together as a team. So, typically if you succeed together as a team, you build a little bit of a relationship, a bond with all the folks that are part of you. They know that they are in for it together, and you'll more often than not you'd actually find them really resonating with the key ideas and getting motivated enough to work on those. So that's important to succeed as a team and say lead with influence as such. So I think typically I agree with the statement that you don't necessarily have to have authority or a title to really build that kind of a sway with the team and or to achieve things overall across the current world.
Thank you so much. That was an insightful perspective.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you. Many see you now as a global director and a chief of product. So, was there any direction or feedback that you received early on in your career that pushed you towards this growth at an accelerated pace?
Sure, I think this is something that is uh, probably when I think about it in the hindsight, there are multiple ways wherein I started to shape up my skill set and my personality to basically cater to these kind of roles. And one major thing around it is say how early in your career can you actually build high level of ownership in terms of getting things done. Second important aspect, of course, is you may not be always having authority with all the folks around, but you still have to have that ownership and lead by influence. We talked about it earlier as well, but I think that's one of the key things when you think about how you start to show some of this early. Another important aspect is the strong bias towards action overall. So, typically, if you really want to progress fast in your career, or if you want to demonstrate that there are, say, you are ready for the next level, you'd probably want to think about, say, how well you're delivering on your stuff overall. So, delivery is a key thing. So, in product, they say you have to ship your products fast, and that's for the consumers also to see. Say all the products that you see, typically the more you ship, they say speed eats strategy for breakfast at times. So I wouldn't really go to that extent, but I'd probably say shipping stuff is important early in your career to really get that kind of visibility and that kind of trust and confidence to be able to take such things forward. And I think one important aspect is to also learn stakeholder management early in your career. All of these things actually came to me through various stints, various feedback. Some of my mentors, managers, really were uh, were critical in terms of giving this kind of feedback, and that helped me grow. Uh, and I think when it comes to stakeholder management, communication is the key. You need to know what is to be said, how someone would react to them. And you also have to be very open to listening in there. So you understand the perspectives, assimilate those, and then respond through that. So that's communication. And then when you're good with communication, you are able to influence your stakeholders to get things done. So I'm assuming these three combinations would help you grow faster and probably demonstrate that you're ready for the next level.
So let's talk about students and young professionals for a bit. If you could go back to the start of your career today, what are two or three things that you would tell yourself or people who are starting right away to focus on in their careers?
Sure. I think this question actually takes me back to my early days as a student. And I was trying to think about what would be the right career for me and how would I succeed within that career. I think the crux of it is basically being open to what is happening around you, understanding and developing your skill set with respect to how the industry is shaping up, how your world is shaping up around yourself, and having that perspective and openness to learn new things uh, every single day. So I would probably want to start with that. I think openness towards learning, having that mindset to take on challenges, and an understanding of where the world is heading is important. And now I think when you think about it, I think you would see in today's world, AI is really shaping up a lot of stuff around us. And it's important for anyone who's coming in to be conversant with AI, for example, to be conversant with respect to the new technologies that help you, say, succeed within any career that you choose, especially within the tech space as well. So I think it's about dispelling some of the notions that you probably have as students when you actually study some subjects theoretically, to getting to a little bit of a real world exposure and opening yourself to newer learning that ways. Typically, I'd also want to say students should actually think about, or students or young professionals should always evaluate whether they are actually heading in the right direction within their careers. Of course, you need to invest in early part of your career, but you also need to see where your career is heading, whether you are getting the right opportunities that will help you grow. Uh, these are not just the titles that you'll get, but the kind of new projects that will actually shape up your learning going forward. So those are the two important things.
So, openness and the curiosities to see where the world is heading and to keep an eye out for opportunities that are coming up.
Agree. Very well summarized,
Yeah,
Pratika. Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
So, many young professionals find it a little difficult to stand out, especially in larger organizations. Have you ever felt that way? And if yes, what did you do to come out of those moments?
Sure. I think this is again a question that actually was with me and stayed with me during the early part of my career when I actually moved into larger organizations in there. And I think it's important, I think, as engineers, kind of, say we are brought up in a way, we are introvert, we think, so the work that we do should speak it for itself.
Yes.
And I think while it is true to a great extent, you need to always be staying true to what you are trying to deliver. But at the same time, I think in larger organizations, it's also about going beyond your current scope, identifying how the organization is trying to shape itself up, and basically align yourself towards that mission. If you align with that, you'd probably also understand that there are other things that you can do to help the organization, to help people around you to succeed as well. And there's a saying wherein you uh, basically, if you help others around you, the world finds a way to help you as well. So from that angle, if you actually build and support others in terms of growing, in terms of your organization growing, I think you'll find it easier to build visibility and also get recognition for the work.
So I really love how you also brought in the aspect of supporting people apart from making sure that you do your work really very well. So not only kind of focusing on your work and how much exposure it is getting, I think it's a great idea to foster also that community around you where you offer support to like however in which whatever means it supports the organization's growth. I think that's a brilliant advice.
Exactly. I think that's something that helped me in my career. Of course, can help a lot of the folks who are starting.
So you must have mentored a lot of young product and tech professionals. From your perspective, what is it that distinguishes people who have the potential to build trust and influence early on, let's say compared to people who are waiting to be picked?
Exactly. I think something that I grapple with on a day in, day out basis now as well. I think it's important to pick your team well in that sense. And I see a lot of the young professionals are kind of caught up with it between, say, what their day in, day out responsibilities are and versus what they really were here and why they were really here in the first place itself, what they were meant to do in the first place. So if you think about it, I think I would probably want to think about, say, people who build trust early are the people who understand the mission and the goal, and they understand the intent of why they are doing certain things, and then of course they can take others along that path. If you're not clear with that, you're probably also just executing the stuff or the work that is given to you, and at times that actually just leaves too much on the table for someone to achieve in that, and say someone to really build trust. Typically think, say, how would you trust a person? You trust someone to execute on things when you know that they understand the entire intent, the goal of it, and they'll work their way around to find the solution to that, rather than giving someone a clear instruction and then asking them to execute on that. So that's a clear difference between, say, people who really go above and beyond their duties and get the things done versus people who are just getting the task done
Yeah.
overall.
So what I gather is your cue is that you're looking for people who understand the why and execute things accordingly instead of those who wait for instructions.
Exactly.
So, following up on that, what are some small actions or day to day behaviors that these young professionals exhibit that makes them stand out in the team?
Sure. I think I try and see these signals almost on a day in, day out basis in my current role and some of the previous roles that I did. And I see, say, some of the team members who really succeed exhibit a few, say, common behaviors. I think one of those is, of course, having a solution mindset rather than just talking about the problems and that. So someone who can actually understand what the problem is, but also bring in the solution with that and some of the proposals at least. So thereby you don't just help yourself, but you also help your leader to take those decisions for you.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important skill and behavior that I see. People also, I think I talked about it earlier as well, but people who understand why would also be able to understand, say, the intent behind doing a particular action, which means they'll probably be able to anticipate what could go wrong or what could go right with that solution and basically prepare the ground for that. In product management, they say whenever you ship a product, it's not just shipped based on your development in there, say when the development completes, but it is shipped when it is in the hands of the user and then they've given you the feedback, which means, say, you have to think about the go to market of any idea or a solution that you've brought in, and you need to make sure, say, all the things that are needed for that user to eventually see your product or that solution to go live in there are kind of in place. For that, you'd probably need to go just beyond the kind of task that you have got and understand, say, where the alignment is needed. So those behaviors, I think, are key. I again see, say, people who really succeed are people who also gather context more actively. So it's not uh, the people don't really go into the execution mode just by understanding the initial bit of it, say what is the task to be done. But people who gather more context, understand and assimilate all of those perspectives so that they can actually bring in their own views to solving that problem as well. So I think these three key behaviors really, for me, stand out and really also denote who would be successful in the long term.
So I'm assuming your advice for anyone who's looking into a career into a product is to develop a mindset where you don't get stuck at a setback or a challenge or somewhere you're uncertain, but actively ask questions, seek knowledge, and develop context first, and then a solution from whatever context you have. And then, if that's exciting for you, maybe you should be in product. So, if someone from non metro colleges dreams of working in a global tech or product role, what advice would you give them on how to get noticed and how to build opportunities?
Again, I think very good and deep question there. I think a lot of the new growth for India would actually happen from people coming from non-metros in there, and I think it's important for all of us to find opportunities in that sense. So typically, I think I'll talk about, say, things that worked for me and probably could work for people from non-metros as well. I think it's important to have a proof of concept of sorts. So which means, say, you need to find projects, internships, as much as possible, which are pertinent to your field in that. So that actually builds a little bit more trust, a little bit more proof that you're able to handle that work. Apart from that proof of concept, I think I'd probably also want to talk about, say, following the right stuff on platforms like LinkedIn, platforms like in my area, Substack or Medium, for example. A lot of new knowledge is available and where the trends are, where the industry is heading. So I think it is important for anyone, not just for people from non-metros, and that just to understand where the industry is heading, probably follow what is people who are really shaping up that industry overall, and engage within those communications, engage on platforms such as LinkedIn, platforms such as Medium, for example, have your own blogs, for example, just to showcase that you understand a particular topic or detail in there. And I think people will find you based on that.
Okay, so learn, build, and show.
Yes, I would say that.
How can junior team members signal that they are ready to take on more responsibility without seeming overconfident or impatient?
Yeah, I think it's fundamental to human behavior. Wherever you want certain things in there, you tend to get a little bit impatient. At times, you also try and see, say, this is something that you deserve, and you kind of feel that way also. So, I would probably say it's fundamental understanding about your own personality, in what context you exhibit certain behaviors, and basically being cognizant of that fact. Typically, I think it boils down to, again, the same behaviors that I talked about earlier. Rather than being a little bit more impatient when, say, for the right opportunity to come to your place, maybe show and, say, demonstrate your skill set that enables your leaders or, say, people in your organization, stakeholders in your organization, to probably discuss that opportunity with you. In some of the cases, having that organizational understanding and understanding of the mission as well can also help you understand, say, these are the areas wherein you could probably contribute. And if you are eager and able to contribute and volunteer for things beyond your current roles, probably you can take it up as a shadow assignment or a stretch assignment beyond your current role as well. And that demonstrates that you can probably take up more than what you've been given right now. I think those are the kind of things that can help you get newer opportunities, probably also get things that that probably appear a little bit out of reach for a lot of the young professionals in there, but probably getting that sense and having that visibility across the organization can probably open up the doors for you.
Yeah, so demonstration that you are ready for more responsibility, as you say, is actual demonstration by taking up more, a
Responsibility.
little bit more responsibility than what you're doing, and also ensuring or keeping keeping an awareness of whether that is having the right visibility or not.
Indeed.
So, when you, looking back, when you think about junior professionals who earned bigger responsibilities or bigger opportunities, what is it that they did differently when it comes to their approach to solving problems or such that kind of paved this path for them?
Sure. I think I have alluded to some of those things in my earlier answers as well. But when I think about it, let me actually just think about my own career, people who started career with me in there. I saw some of the professionals really rocketing into the next orbit very, very fast in there. And I learned a lot of things from my colleagues. Typically, I thought, say, people who approach those people who really succeeded approach problems with a very, very open-ended mindset in that, but also a mindset wherein they were very, very goal-driven as such. So they always knew, say, this is something that they needed to achieve, and they paved their own path towards achieving those goals, which actually also boils down to aligning the right folks to get that thing done, probably also identifying the right resources that you need for those kind of successes for yourself. But I think it really boils down to having a clear sense of your goal in there, and then making sure, say, all of the things around, say, resourcing, enablement, and openness learning really fall within place towards achieving that goal.
So, what are some ways in which young professionals can develop product thinking and influence their teams towards certain decisions, let's say, even if it is their first internship or job? What's your advice?
Agree. I think I'll just tackle this question in two parts. One, of course, say what is product thinking overall, and I think to me it's a little bit of a misnomer. We used to study in MBA a concept called product myopia. Product thinking is not about thinking too much about the product. It is actually thinking too much, say, deeply about the customer experiences. So if you have the empathy around your customer pain points, have the empathy of around their emotions, what do they really feel while they are using or say accomplishing that job, then your product's job is to really help them accomplish that and basically address some of those pain points. So the crux of product thinking really lies in customer empathy and really understanding, say, how someone achieves that job uh, from the step one to step n that actually gets towards accomplishing that job. So that's one of the first things that you should develop as a product thinker. One other thing that I'd probably talk about is so your ability to have clear and very, very deeply entrenched foundation in terms of data itself. So if you are able to have a clear data driven decision making process, then more often than not you're able to say convince the right folks and probably achieve arrive at the right answers as well. And I think over these years, as I actually practice product management myself, I realized that there are a few constructs, frameworks that have been developed across the industry as well. So, for example, Amazon has actually come up with, say, thinking backwards, say, having a view of the end state. So, if you can visualize how someone would say use your product in the end state and what would the features of that product be according to the pain points that you want to really serve, I think then you can work backwards from there and understand, say, what will it take you to make sure that that product gets delivered in there. So I think these three things, if you actually combine together, they'll probably create a bit of a product thought process for young professionals. And I think if you see how someone can succeed now within this role, I think if you start to understand this at a conceptual level, then you should actually start approaching the problems around you. See where the people are really facing the issues. Especially, say, if you're within a particular company, probably see if people are finding issues with respect to using your products, and then I understand where do they really feel that pain, where do they have that frustration, and where they also feel motivated towards using your product as well. So understanding that emotional state of a user when they use your products, keeping yourself in customers' shoes, uh, will become fundamental for you to actually think about your product, probably envisage what needs to be done in that sense. Uh, and if you are able to spec it out in terms of a product concept, and then also get your engineering team or operations team to understand your thought process from that angle, more often than not, you develop a product which will hit the ground as a success, probably.
Yeah. Um, so, having a very keen awareness on, or like you said, empathy on the customer experience, and being able to understand and analyze data, and also having an awareness of how the end state looks like. So these are the three things that you would tell are the key components of developing a product thinking. Given the amount of things that we are able to accomplish with AI these days, where everyone can be a engineer, everyone can be a designer, everyone can be a content writer, I think developing this product thinking is one crucial element that kind of can super shot anyone into an entrepreneur.
That's exactly right. I think, in fact, you've really created an insight out of this. And I really think, say, at the heart of it, a founder's mindset and the product and product thinking are not really different. Say, as a founder as well, you really need to go deep and understand, say, what are you solving for? Who are you solving for? How are you thinking about users' frustrations and which frustrations you would be able to solve with your product? So, product is exactly that.
So, can you share with us an experience or a moment about a time when you built influence in your team before having or holding the authority? And what steps should our listeners try themselves?
Of course, I think let me think a little bit about it. And I think, say, this was probably when I was at Adobe, and I was surrounded by people who were, say, at least 10 years more experienced than me. And I got into a role wherein I was really managing the Creative Cloud desktop app, which is basically helping almost a $3 billion annual revenue stream for the organization. This was a very, very critical role. People wanted to see, say, domain expertise. People wanted to see how I would really succeed within that role as well. And of course, I didn't have authority over neither in terms of the knowledge set, neither in terms of experience, or neither in terms of, say, having a formal title above all of these folks to really, say, basically lead with authority at that point. So I realized, I think it's about really gaining deep insight into your product that becomes your initial starting point. Understand what a user would want to see from your product. Again, things that we talked about in terms of having user empathy, understanding the pain points well. And if you understand that well, you can actually then lead with your domain expertise. At least you can bring something to the table that would be valuable for the organization. To build that, there are various channels. You need to really figure it out. You need to go and talk to the consumers. You need to do your consumer research, have your own data analysis on the forum that is there, and basically identify ways and paths within your organization who can help you get that consumer insight much faster. So I think that is one of the key things that helped me initially. And then I think the second part of leading with authority, without authority, as such, is basically having that relationship with your stakeholders or people that will enable you, who will enable you basically to get things done. Um, and for that, I think you really need to have an informal connect, understand the implicit feedback that they may be giving to you, in there, understand why are they saying something which probably is not connecting and gelling with the thought process. And typically over these years, I think having those personal bond and relationships with people, at the end of the day, you're not working with machines, you're working with human beings, and having that good sense of empathy with your stakeholders also helps you build a relationship that can help you lead with influence again. So I think these would be at least the first two starting steps for anyone who's actually into a role wherein say there are expectations and high demands from the role, and you see that you may probably are not starting with that area of strength. How do you build your strength will really go a long way in terms of really getting things done. And once you get things under your belt, then of course you have wins under your belt that allow you to lead with that confidence.
Again, gathering or having an understanding of what the end users need, and also keeping all the other stakeholders in loop. So if you are able to do this efficiently, you don't really need a title to lead in product.
Perfectly said, yes.
Yes, thank you. So we were talking about building and building influence in the team and leading before holding formal titles. So is while you were doing that, was there a moment where you were mentoring others while you were still a junior yourself?
Yeah, I think, let me think about it. I think as I started my career, I think I got an early opportunity to lead teams at IBBO, but then that was a little bit of a formal role. I think I can talk about Adobe itself. Say when I was a senior product manager, but relatively junior with respect to both experience and authority with respect to the other teams and other team members in there. At that point, I think a couple of QA folks approached me to understand product management. They wanted to get opportunities within, say, how to think about products in there and how could they actually lead, say, certain smaller products to begin with and then take on product management full time. I think that's when I realized that I could probably help and say share some of the knowledge that I've gained over my experience with the new folks. And I think their successes eventually later in the career actually started to give me confidence that sharing your knowledge actually just doesn't really expand your or the world for them, but it also gives the confidence to you to be able to say contribute meaningfully to the organization or to your community as such, which is product in this case. So I think I started to continue those efforts within my experience at Expedia and the following stints that I had with Ola and Razorpay. I got into formal coaching and mentorship with Product School or Institute of Product Leadership, a lot of Indian B schools, and some of these, say, engineering colleges as well, where I'm a coach and a mentor as well. And I realized, say, sharing your insight to young folks who are trying to learn about the discipline actually also helps you reevaluate your own understanding about that concept. And as you explain it more, you also basically create a foundational understanding about that concept more strongly. So that has given me a good confidence about my own knowledge. Uh, in fact, because of that, we've been able to apply some of it in the challenges that we've been facing in the organizations wherein I've started to lead teams as well. And I think I could share those insights with folks who are kind of struggling with initial ideas around conceptualization or connecting with folks or stakeholder management itself. I think some of this, I think, has contributed not just to me, but also to my, say, repertoire of knowledge as such.
And I'm sure that this would have massively given a boost to your confidence and your relationships with other people at work too.
Agree, agree. I think when you think about the relationships at work, it's about a little bit of a give and take between folks. And if you are able to selflessly give, uh, say, whatever you understand, whatever you know, sometimes it actually also, as I said earlier in the conversation, the world finds a way to help you as well in that sense. So it comes back to you. So I think that always has helped.
Yeah. So, has all of this kind of opened an unexpected opportunity for you, where you could kind of leapfrog into another growth path?
So I think one opportunity definitely opened up, I think, for me when I actually moved from Delhi to Bangalore for, say, basically as the head of mobility for Ola, which is big role, much larger team, really a portfolio leadership opportunity there. And I realized, say, some of the work that I had been doing had traveled beyond me in there. Some of those lectures that I had taken, some of the concept classes that I had taken, or the mentorship exercises that I did, some of that reputation probably, say, moved beyond my original realms. And I think that's where I created a little bit of a reputation for myself, a little bit of a followership for myself as well. And that actually probably opened up certain such roles for me in the past as well.
Um, Now it kind of solidifies my perception of what you said when you said you don't not only have to do your work well and create that visibility, but also have to support others, and that will multiply opportunities for you. So you've kind of lived that.
Perfectly. I think I am fortunate to have experienced that. And I think most of the people who have done this in their own lives and careers have found such similar experiences as well.
Yeah. So, what is your recommendation for junior team members to communicate to their peers or senior members without overstepping?
So, as I've said before as well, and I think if you think deeply about what communication is about really a two-way channel, developing a two-way channel with your audience, with anyone you are conversing with. It's basically the art of active listening that actually helps you communicate better. It's not just about, say, how well you articulate your own thoughts, but how well do you also assimilate the other person's feedback or opinion or information that comes your way in there. And by doing that active listening, you can actively also shape up a conclusive consensus within the group. So I've seen, say, sometimes we lack that, and at times we just go ahead and, say, communicate our ideas. Sometimes it, say, falls flat with your audience. Sometimes it resonates, and then you find that there is no, say, method to this madness. So I would probably see someone who's been able to communicate well is a person who has been able to actively listen, has been able to actively um, assimilate the feedback, and that way is you make other people part of your decision making exercise, and that gives you much more active control over, say, the outcomes as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot for expanding the scope of what communication is actually. So it's not just about what you say and what you listen, but I think I really liked that you took it a step further and built it into what you do with what you hear. And yeah, I think following through on advice and direction that we get also communicates a lot. Following or not following communicates a lot to our seniors too. So, brilliant. Thank you.
Exactly, Prasida. I think this is one of the things that I would say people early in their career should learn, especially when you come out of your college. You are very fresh with your ideas. You're you're basically brimming with new ideas that you want to get started on. At times, when you find resistance, all of this can actually go the other way as
Yeah.
well.
So, what's a mistake that you see early tech professionals make in their careers that limits their growth as future leaders?
Sure. I think when you think about tech or any other industry for that matter, I think when you come on board, as I said earlier in one of the answers as well, say everyone is very enthusiastic about the ideas that they bring to the table, and they want them to be seen as people who are kind of contributing actively innovative ideas in there, who are bringing new stuff to the table and getting that executed. Typically when the rubber hits the road, you'd see, say, there is sometimes those ideas are not well thought through. Sometimes the people that you want to execute on those ideas and people you need help from are not resonating with those same ideas in there. And that is one of the key pitfalls of really getting married to the idea that you've brought in. Typically in product management or in management in general, as they say, you have to go deep and understand the problem first rather than the solution of that. So rather than bringing the idea, identify what do you want to solve together with the other group that you're trying to bring in, and then you can actively engage other folks in terms of solving that idea. Typically, if you engage other folks early in the conversation, in the conceptualization of those ideas, then you'd see that there is more consensus that you can build very, very early. And I see a lot of the young professionals at times miss that trick. And then they get demotivated if they are not getting their ideas, say they start feeling that their ideas are not getting heard, and typically then get into a shell of sorts. And both of these are kind of areas wherein you can actually really are not really things that would be beneficial for your career.
Yeah. So recognizing early on that product or any other thing for that matter to go into execution, it's always consensus and team effort.
Indeed. I think it's as much about bringing other folks' perspective and doing a joint solving exercise rather than you leading that way and say just asking others to execute on your ideas.
So, what would your advice be for a young professional who says, I'm not here just for a job, I want to create an impact? So, what would you tell them?
I think young professionals should always have a sense of a goal in there and a bit of a mission uh, wherein they set themselves up for achieving that goal in there. So how do you really get to that in there? I think typically one of the things is, say, when you have the context about the problems you want to solve, and then get to the solutioning. That's probably one of the things wherein you can actually create lasting impact. Another important aspect is, so you always have to think about this as a team sport and not as an individual sport. So the kind of impact that you can achieve as a team versus what you can achieve as an individual varies in terms of scale itself. So you can achieve probably, so that's why you see, say, the large organizations, the way they say function, achieve targets, or say build innovations in there is a method to that madness as well, and the element of scale is there already. So from that angle, I would probably say young professionals should always think of it as a team sport, need to build their team early, work in as part of a team, and then think of it that impact that their team can create rather than they themselves. And as part of that, as I stated earlier as well, say you actually start helping others within the team. As you help others, your own career, your own visibility will also grow.
Looking back, was there any lesson that you learned the hard way about leadership or growth?
Yeah, I think I again was fortunate enough to have these experiences early in my career in there. So when I think about see my early stints in product management, I realized I was also one of those, say, excited, enthusiastic young professionals who would have a lot of ideas and who would basically want to run with them. And sometimes in your haste, however well you have actually, say, researched your idea, however well you have actually done the data analysis, you sometimes forget to bring in the right folks early into the cycle. especially the teams which will enable you to achieve that success. So whether you're a strategy professional, whether you are a tech professional, or whether you are a product professional, I think you would need to think about, say, whoever are the parts of that puzzle that you need to solve for to achieve that success, and then you need to bring them early in terms of conceptualization itself. And I think I missed that during the early part of my career. Realized I was missing some of the targets, I was missing some of the product deadlines, project deadlines, and then eventually, as a product manager, you are responsible for those say outcomes that you have to achieve.
Yes.
And I think when I realized this, I think I started to make sure, say, whenever I have an idea in the inception stage, the findings that I've got, I started to share them within the team much early, and then created a conceptualization based on that common understanding, rather than, say, working in a silo and then creating my own idea from there. So I think that has helped over these years. But then when it was happening, of course, it was grueling experience for anyone who I can imagine right now as well.
Yeah, and I think from there you went on to have a very stellar and brilliant career ahead. So I'd like to congratulate you on that again.
Thank you.
So, as we come towards the end of our conversation, I'd like to end it with one last question. So, across all of these years, how has your definition of success evolved? What was it? How has it changed? And what is it for you now?
Sure. So I was a meritorious student across my, say, entire schooling, even in my college when I was there. And to some extent, I had actually developed a perception around success, which was centered around individual brilliance. So if you put in the hard work, if you are brilliant yourself, then of course success cannot evade you, was the kind of notion that I held. But the world is very complex that way. So, and as you join organizations, as you join, say, much larger missions than your own individual successes, then you will realize, say, the success is not as easy to come by in there. And you have to make sure, say, there is a team element. More often than not, teams succeed rather than individuals in the real world scenarios, in the real world corporate setting as well. And that is one thing that I started to realize, and that's shaped up my perception. Success is also not a destination of sorts. It's basically a path. So you will build your future success based on your past success. So you need to think of it as a layered step-by-step process, wherein each individual success or a failure also should give you the right amount of learning to move forward into the next stage of your achievement, wherein you can actually, say, achieve higher level of success from there. So I think that's one of the things. It's not something which is a destination. It's basically the journey that counts.
Yeah, that's a brilliant perspective. Thank you. So, I would also like to thank you immensely for breaking down the complexities of product thinking and product roles and making it easy for our students to follow. And I'm sure everyone who's even slightly remotely interested in or curious about product has found a lot of value today, and I'm sure that they're also motivated and energized to explore it further. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us and have this conversation today. And thank you for being so brilliant and generous with your insights.
Thank you, Prasida. I always appreciated the opportunity to come to the campus and, say, speak to all of you, share some of the wisdom, insights that I've gained painfully across my career at times. But I think it's rewarding, as I said earlier as well, to be able to share some of that knowledge and, say, see how it helps others as well. So thank you for this opportunity again. Thank you, NxtWave team as well, for hosting this and hosting me. Really appreciate this.
Thank you so much for coming here and sharing your insights with us today. Thank you so much for saying yes to this conversation and for very delicately and carefully breaking down all the concepts of product thinking and product and making it so easy for our students who are even remotely curious or interested in these roles find easy to follow. I think you not only gave them that easy methods and principles, but you also kind of motivated and energized them to explore this path. So I'm really, really thankful that you have chosen to spend time with us today and for so generously sharing your experience and insights with us. Thank you. We must all thank Akhil for sharing such honest stories and practical wisdom. His journey shows us that leadership is less about titles and more about the choices, actions, and mindset we bring to work every day. For everyone tuning in, remember, real influence begins the moment you start taking ownership, building trust, and thinking beyond your task list. If you found this conversation valuable, subscribe and share it with someone aiming to make an impact early in their career or someone who's curious about a career in product. It could spark someone else's next chapter. Until next time, keep leading, keep learning, keep an open mind, and keep looking for possibilities.